All right, you beautiful bastards. Let's cut the crap. Let's just dive headfirst into the Shakespearean bullshit. Everyone thinks they know the story of Antony and Cleopatra, right? It's like the love story, the power-hungry queen, the dude who couldn't keep it in his toga. But what if I told you there's more to it? Like, what if this whole thing is just a giant cosmic mindfuck?
You're not wrong. History, as they say, is written by the victors.
And in this case?
The victors were some real asshats.
Okay, so we're going to unpack this whole damn play, Antony and Cleopatra. We've got the play itself, some historical texts, and a shit ton of critical analysis. So we're going deep, folks. No Cliff Notes bullshit here.
We're going to be looking at the historical context. We'll be looking at the sources that Shakespeare drew from. And we're also going to look at how this iconic play has been interpreted throughout the ages.
Okay, so let's just, set the stage. What the hell is this play actually about?
So at its core, it's about this tumultuous relationship between Mark Antony, one of Rome's big shot generals, and Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt.
And we're talking, what time period here?
We're talking the final days of the Roman Republic.
Ah, okay.
A time of, total political upheaval and backstabbing galore.
So basically, Rome is a total shit show. Everyone's fighting for power, and Antony's just over in Egypt, banging the queen, and just forgetting his damn duties.
Pretty much, yeah. He's supposed to be ruling Rome with Octavius Caesar and Lepidus. But he's too busy getting his toga tangled up with Cleopatra.
Okay, so did Antony actually just chuck his responsibilities for some Egyptian ass? Was it all just the big dick move?
Well, Shakespeare definitely took some creative liberties with the historical fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For instance, Antony was actually married to a Roman woman named Octavia during this time.
Oh, shit.
They even had kids together. But the play just conveniently forgets to mention that little detail.
Typical Shakespeare. Messing with the facts to spice things up.
Yeah.
So where did he get this whole Antony and Cleopatra story from? Did he just, make this shit up?
Not exactly. His main source was Sir Thomas North's translation of Plutarch's life of Mark Antony.
Oh.
Plutarch was a Greek historian writing a couple of centuries after these events went down.
So like a historical gossip rag, centuries later.
Well, Plutarch was a respected historian, but Shakespeare definitely embellished things for dramatic effect. Take, for example, Enobarbus's fabulous description of Cleopatra on her barge. Shakespeare lifted whole chunks of text straight from North's translation.
Let's hear it. Hit us with that juicy quote.
Okay, so here's Enobarbus painting a picture of Cleopatra on her barge. The barge she sat in, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them.
Damn, that's some next-level shit. Shakespeare really knew how to set the mood.
Exactly. He took Plutarch's description and just cranked it up to 11. And that's just one example. He added scenes, fleshed out characters, and just poured on the drama.
Okay, so beyond just a love story, what's this play really about? I mean, it's been around for centuries. There's got to be more to it than just some Roman dude getting his heart stomped on by an Egyptian queen.
You're damn right. This play is overflowing with complex themes. Ambiguity is a big one. You're constantly questioning the characters' motives, their loyalties, their true feelings.
I dig that ambiguity. It's like you think you know what's going on, and then Shakespeare throws a curveball, and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there are the oppositions. Rome versus Egypt, love versus lust, masculinity versus femininity. These contrasting forces are constantly at play, shaping the characters' actions and ultimately leading to their downfall.
Okay, let's talk betrayal. Antony marries Octavia, but then runs back to Cleopatra. That's some cold-blooded shit right there.
Betrayal is everywhere in this play. Even the character's loyalty is ambiguous, constantly shifting, like the sands of the desert. Yeah. Take Enobarbus, for example. He's like Antony's most loyal friend. He deserts to Caesar. Then he dies heartbroken by his own disloyalty.
Even the betrayal is fucked up and complicated.
Yeah.
Shakespeare was a master of that shit.
He truly was. And then there's Cleopatra. She ditches Antony in the heat of battle, not once, but twice.
Of course.
Yet she also shows genuine grief over his death and chooses suicide over surrendering to Caesar.
Okay, so let's talk about Cleopatra. Badass, no doubt. But she also gets a bad rap, right? This manipulative seductress.
Yeah, it's fascinating how interpretations of Cleopatra have evolved over time. Early critics often painted her as a purely sexual temptress, like a femme fatale who brought about Antony's downfall. But more recently, scholars have recognized her political power and agency. She was a shrewd ruler, a skilled diplomat, and a master manipulator.
Hold up. Early critics called her a gypsy and tawny. What
Yeah.
the fuck is that all about?
It highlights the historically ambiguous portrayals of Cleopatra's race and how those are often intertwined with the cultural and social identities she represents on stage.
Oh, okay.
In reality, she was of Macedonian Greek descent, but she was also the ruler of Egypt.
Right.
So her racial identity becomes this complex and often debated topic.
So it's more about the power dynamics and cultural clashes than her actual race. Interesting.
Exactly. Early modern ideas about race were very different from our own. Terms like gypsy and tawny carried different connotations back then.
Okay, now for the juicy stuff. There's this theory that Antony might have cross-dressed as Cleopatra at the beginning of the play. What's the deal with that?
You have to remember, in Shakespeare's time, all the roles were played by men.
Oh, right.
So a boy actor would have played Cleopatra.
Okay.
There's some debate about whether Shakespeare intended for Antony to appear in Cleopatra's clothing at some point, perhaps to further blur the lines between masculinity and femininity.
Whoa, Antony rocking Cleopatra's robes. That's some mind-blowing shit.
It's a fascinating possibility. It adds another layer of complexity to their relationship and the play's exploration of gender roles.
This whole Rome versus Egypt thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about two different places, right?
Yeah.
It's about empires clashing, right?
You're spot on. The play can be interpreted as a reflection on the politics of imperialism and colonization.
Okay.
You know, remember Shakespeare was writing during a time when England was starting to build its own overseas empire?
So Shakespeare was like throwing shade at the whole empire thing.
It's definitely possible. He uses language and imagery to create this stark contrast between Rome and Egypt. Rome, hard surfaces, control, masculinity. Egypt, fluidity, sensuality, femininity. This juxtaposition could be seen as a commentary on the dangers of imperial ambition.
Damn, Shakespeare's a sly one. So how does this whole Rome versus Egypt thing tie into the idea of fate and free will?
That's a great question. The concept of fortune or fate is a central force in the play. It's often represented through, like, elemental and astronomical imagery.
Okay.
For example, on the eve of a crucial battle, Antony's soldiers hear strange portents, like howling wolves, groaning earth. They see it as the god Hercules abandoning Antony, suggesting his fate is sealed.
So basically, bad omens equal bad luck. The universe is just telling Antony he's screwed.
Exactly. Throughout the play, the characters grapple with this sense of being at the mercy of forces beyond their control.
Damn, that's heavy. So is it all just fate? Or do these characters actually have any say in their own destiny? That's the million-dollar question the play asks. Are they masters of their own fate? Or are they just pawns in some cosmic game? It's like they're making choices, but, there's just this invisible hand pushing them along, some kind of predetermined path. The play doesn't really give us any easy answers,
Yeah.
It's this tug-of-war between free will and fate that makes it so damn interesting.
Okay, so it's not like preordained destiny bullshit.
Right.
But there's like these cosmic nudges that steer them in certain directions.
Right, and that tension, that struggle between what they want and what fate just seems to have in store for them, well, that's the heart of the tragedy,
Yeah.
It makes us question our own agency.
Right. Yeah.
Like how much control do we really have over our own lives
Right.
when the universe seems to have its own agenda?
So let's bring it back to Antony and Cleopatra. How does this whole like fate versus free will thing play out for them?
Well, Antony is often portrayed as this man torn between duty and desire. He's a brilliant general, a charismatic leader,
Right.
but also impulsive as hell and loves to indulge. His love for Cleopatra could be seen as like his Achilles heel, the thing that ultimately brings him down.
So he's just a classic tragic hero, a victim of his own dick.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's not so simple.
Right.
He's also a victim of circumstance, caught in a web of political scheming and betrayal. Let's not forget, Octavius Caesar,
Oh, yeah.
his rival for power in Rome,
Right.
a master manipulator who's constantly working to undermine him.
Right. So it's not just about, love and lust. It's a goddamn power struggle. Exactly. And that power struggle is tied to the themes of imperialism and colonization we talked about earlier.
Right.
Antony's affair with Cleopatra, it isn't just like a personal matter, it's a political scandal. It weakens his position in Rome and makes him vulnerable to Caesar's manipulations.
Okay. So speaking of Cleopatra,
Yeah.
how does she fit into this whole fate versus free will thing? Is she just like a pawn in this game, or is she calling some of the shots?
Cleopatra's fascinating. She embodies both agency and vulnerability. She's a powerful queen, She's a brilliant diplomat.
Right.
And, let's be real, a master manipulator in her own right. But she's also deeply in love with Antony, and her fate becomes intertwined with his.
So she's not just some, helpless damsel in distress, that's for sure. She's playing her own game.
Absolutely. And, her decision to commit suicide, that can be seen as her final act of defiance.
Okay.
A refusal to be Caesar's trophy, to be paraded through Rome in chains.
Right.
She chooses to die on her own terms, preserving her dignity and her legacy as the Queen of Egypt.
That's badass. Choosing death over humiliation. Talk about going out with a bang.
It's a powerful statement. It speaks to the complexity of her character. She's both a victim of circumstance and a woman who takes control of her own destiny. She refuses to let Caesar write the final chapter of her story.
So, okay, let's dig into the play itself. There's that famous scene, right, where Enobarbus describes Cleopatra on her barge.
Yes.
It's like the most iconic passage in the whole damn play. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a piece of writing that just explodes with imagery and sensual language.
Right.
Barbus, Antony's loyal friend, he describes Cleopatra's arrival in such vivid detail that you can practically see her radiant in her royal barge.
Okay, hit us with that quote again.
The barge she sat in, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of flutes kept stroke, and made the water which they beat to follow faster, as amorous of their strokes. For her own person, it beggared all description.
Damn, Shakespeare really knew how to paint a picture with words.
He did. And it's not just about physical beauty. It's about power. It's about Cleopatra's power to command attention, to inspire awe. It's about her presence, her charisma, her ability to just captivate and conquer.
Right. It's not just about her looking hot. It's about her whole aura.
Yeah.
Right. She's a force of nature.
Exactly. This scene is really key to understanding Cleopatra. It establishes her as a woman who demands respect, a woman who can stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful men in the world. And it foreshadows the power she holds over Antony.
I'm starting to see why this play has resonated with audiences for centuries.
Yeah. Right.
It's got everything. It's got love, it's got betrayal, it's got power struggles, and these big cosmic questions about fate and free will. It's a mindfuck in the best possible way.
It is. Antony and Cleopatra is one of Shakespeare's most complex and enduring tragedies. It challenges us, it provokes us, and it forces us to confront these timeless questions about love, power, and what it means to be human.
Okay, so before we wrap up this part, let's talk about the ending.
Right.
It's a tragedy, so we know it ain't going to end well for our star-crossed lovers.
Right.
But what makes it so damn tragic?
The ending of Antony and Cleopatra is both heartbreaking and strangely triumphant.
Okay.
Antony, defeated in battle and believing Cleopatra to be dead, takes his own life. Cleopatra, upon discovering Antony's death, she chooses suicide rather than submit to Caesar.
So they both end up dead, but you said it was triumphant too. How the hell is that possible?
Well, their deaths, while tragic, can be seen as acts of defiance against the Roman Empire.
Okay.
Cleopatra especially. She refuses to be Caesar's captive, a pawn in his political games. She chooses to die on her own terms, preserving her dignity and her legacy as the Queen of Egypt.
Right, so even in death, they kind of win.
Yeah.
They cheat Caesar out of his ultimate victory.
It's a complex ending, open to interpretation, but it's clear that Antony and Cleopatra's love story, even in its tragic conclusion, continues to fascinate and inspire us centuries later.
All right, my brain is fried. Let's take a quick breather, and then we'll dive into the final act of this Shakespearean masterpiece. All right, you magnificent bastards, we're back. Final round of our Antony and Cleopatra deep dive. Let's finish this shit strong.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
Right.
From historical context to betrayal, from power dynamics to, that mind-blowing ending.
Right. So this play is more than just some lovey-dovey bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
It's a goddamn hurricane of politics, ambition, lust, and these big questions about fate and free will.
Absolutely. And what makes Antony and Cleopatra so powerful is that it still resonates with us centuries later. We're still grappling with the same themes, the same conflicts, the same human flaws that Shakespeare was exploring way back when.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Cleopatra. She's a complex character, right? A powerful queen, a skilled diplomat, and, let's be real, a total heartbreaker.
She's both alluring and dangerous, and her relationship with Antony is at the heart of the play's central conflict, this clash between personal desire and political responsibility.
Right, Antony's torn between His love for Cleopatra and his duty to Rome. It's like his dick is leading him one way and his head is telling him to go the other.
It's a classic dilemma. He's a man divided, and that internal conflict, ultimately leads to his downfall.
So is Cleopatra to blame for Antony's downfall? Was she just using him for her own political gain?
That's the million-dollar question. Some critics see her as, a manipulative seductress, a femme fatale who used her charm and sexuality to control Antony.
Yeah, I can see that. She definitely knows how to wrap men around her little finger.
But others argue that her love for Antony was genuine, that she was just as much a victim of circumstance as he was. They point to her grief over his death, her refusal to surrender to Caesar, and, ultimately her suicide as evidence of her true feelings.
Right, so it's not a simple case of good versus evil. Everyone's kind of fucked up in their own way.
Exactly, and that's what makes Shakespeare's characters so compelling. They're not just cardboard cutouts. They're complex, flawed, and ultimately very human.
So what's the final verdict on Cleopatra? Villain or victim? Temptress or tragic heroine?
That's the beauty of Shakespeare. He doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
He presents us with these complex characters in ambiguous situations, and it's up to us, the audience, to grapple with the moral and emotional complexities of the story.
So there's no right or wrong answer. It's all about interpretation.
Exactly. And that's what makes Antony and Cleopatra so endlessly fascinating. It's a play that can be read and reinterpreted in countless ways, and it continues to speak to us across the centuries.
Okay, so we've unpacked the play, delved into the historical context, and explored the themes of love, betrayal, power, fate, all that shit. But what does it all mean for us here in the 21st century?
That's the big question, isn't it? What can we learn from this, ancient story of love and loss, of ambition and downfall? I think Antony and Cleopatra reminds us that human nature is timeless. We're still driven by the same passions, the same desires, the same flaws that shaped the lives of these characters centuries ago.
So basically, we're all just as fucked up as they were.
Perhaps. But I think there's also a message of hope. Even in the face of tragedy, even in the midst of chaos and destruction, there's still beauty, there's still love, there's still the possibility for redemption.
Damn, that's deep. All right, my mind is officially blown. Time to pour myself a stiff drink and ponder the mysteries of the universe.
And maybe revisit Antony and Cleopatra with fresh eyes. You might be surprised at what you discover.
You got that right. And for all you brilliant bastards out there listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Catch you on the next episode of The Deep Dive.